Greetings, I am Herbert Erpaderp, and today I'm going to show you how I painted this outhouse, or as the kit prefers to call it, field toilet. This is the ICM 35th scale field toilet that I built a while ago, and if you want to see how the kit went together, there's a link to that video in the description below. Not a bad little model really. As you can see, it's been primed with Stynylrez Res Black. Well, you can't really see that it's Stynylrez Res Black, just that it's black. And it could be any black primer you want really. I primed this before I had any idea what paints I would be using on it, and I'm not sure I really need this primer for the paints I've chosen, which in this case are from this wood effect set from True Earth. I've never used this set before or anything from True Earth, so I'm not totally sure what to expect. I came across it when I was thinking of how I should paint this outhouse. Obviously, I wanted it to look as much like wood as possible. I saw this set and figured, why not? There are 4 wood colours: light wood, brown wood, red wood, and old wood. There's also a wood primer, and that primer is the reason I wasn't sure I needed that black primer base or not, but it was already there, so why bother removing it? I applied the wood primer using a brush, and not a very good one. It's a reasonable size for bigger flat areas like this, and the imperfections and rattiness, I guess, I figured would help me get a sort of streaky result, which I thought would be good for a wood effect. I could have airbrushed this on and it would have been a lot quicker and easier, not that this wasn't also quick and easy to do. I did have to apply a couple of layers of this primer to get it to be fairly opaque over the black. I didn't get it totally opaque though, but I did get a fairly streaky result, which of course was intentional. I did my best to have the brush strokes running along the grain of the wood. There isn't actually any grain texture moulded into the model, so it all has to be paint. Next it was time to and ah over which wood colour to use. I figured it would make sense to use only one and not have a mishmash of different wood colours here, but I would like to try them all out. I chose brown wood.
Isn't all wood brown, Herbert?
No. Well, most is, but I guess this would be better named dark brown wood. And that is why I chose it. I thought the dark colour would look nice. I started with a quite large brush that I figured would apply the colour in a fairly streaky way, and you can see that I was a bit messy with it. I'm applying the paint downward from the top in vertical streaks. Again, obviously, to try and create a wood grain appearance that goes with the planks. I quickly switched to a smaller but still fairly rough brush, and I think this one worked a bit better. Unfortunately, the camera is a bit too stupid to realise what it should be focusing on all the time, but I think you can see what I'm doing here. It is pretty simple. I think this colour looks good here, but I did want it to be a bit darker, so multiple coats is in order. Obviously, the more you add, the darker it'll be. I probably don't need to say it, but I make sure to keep applying the layers, and in most areas I did 3 layers of this. I keep applying the layers along the planks to get the best wood grain effect that I could. It's not perfectly straight, which is fine because wood grain isn't usually perfectly straight either. It was quite challenging to paint the inside of this, and well, it's not going to stand up to close inspection at all. I did my best to get the wood grain effect to be convincing in there, but it was just so hard to get the brush inside. It was also a little bit tricky to apply this neatly on the inside of the door, but we can add other stuff to it later to help hide any rough bits, like a nice dark wash or something. Eventually, I got the colour to be nice and dark like I wanted, and I think I've done a fairly good job with the streakiness. This stuff is pretty easy to use. The SDW tech that the box mentions, which is something to do with slow drying, means that this stuff, unlike normal acrylic paints, won't just dry as soon as you apply it, and for this kind of thing, that's what you want. You can work with it for a little while to get the streaks looking how you want them. I guess you could probably also get the same thing with a paint retarder or something, but it is nice to have an option that you can use straight out of the bottle too. That's pretty much the main part of the paint job done. We can't just have wood though. I'm pretty sure the door handle at least should be metal, so I painted it with scale 75 black metal, which might be a little bit bright for this, but we can deal with that later. It's pretty simple to get this colour onto the handle, just don't put it on any of the wood bits. The inside latchy thing, I think would be wood, so I didn't paint that metal, though it probably would have added a bit of interest had I done that. Too late now, I guess. I figured the metal colour would be appropriate for the hinges too. It's very slightly more tricky to get the paint onto these, mostly because of the door being open, but it could be worse, and I got the job done neatly enough. Once that's done, I applied a coat of clear gloss varnish. I did this because I thought a dark enamel wash between the wood panels would look effective. I tried Ammo by MIG Black Night Panel Wash, which wasn't quite as dark as I wanted, so I tried SMS Black Wash, which I've never used before. The idea was that it would sit in the spaces between the planks and make it look more convincing, you know, like they were separate planks instead of one big board. It wasn't quite working how I wanted, so I just applied a bit around the metal parts. I also added a little bit of MIG Productions standard rust effects to the hinges and a tiny bit to the handle, and this worked pretty much how I expected it to. Unfortunately though, the wash between the planks didn't really do what I wanted it to, so I left it to sit for a bit while the enamel thinner evaporated, and then I used Model Air Black to carefully paint the spaces between the planks. I'm using my finger to wipe away the excess black, which will probably cause some ding-a-ling to flip their lid, but it works, so why not? There are gaps there, but I guess they're not quite deep enough to hold a significant amount of the enamel wash. I used a bad brush with mostly stiff bristles to then use a tiny bit of water to clean things up a bit better once all of the gaps are painted. The way I'm doing this might not be the best way, and it was definitely time consuming, but it did get the results I wanted better than the enamels did. I applied a coat of the good old Lucky Matte varnish, and I feel like this makes the entire thing just look way better, and that's about it. It's not really complete, I would say. I do want to add a little base and maybe some dirt on the floor that's been tracked in by the users. I'd also like to find a figure that looks funny sitting inside, among other things. That's obviously going to take a bunch more time, and I don't have everything I'll need for it yet. So I would say this video is actually mostly just a test of the True Earth wood colours. Obviously I only tried one colour, and it's not at all comprehensive, but it is still testing how the paint works, and I will be trying it on some other things at some point. From what I've seen so far, I think it's really good, though I do think it's something that works a bit better on bigger surfaces. While it worked pretty well for this, it might not work quite so well on, say, a 28mm scale outhouse, if that makes sense. Though I guess it is just a matter of how tiny you can make your brush strokes. Still, it seems to me like it would be most effective and easiest to use on bigger surfaces. I'm curious to see how this would work on models that already have a wood texture molded into them. This one obviously doesn't. I'm not sure if it would be a help or a hindrance to have the grain molded in. I also kind of wonder how well this would work on a ship. Either a ship built completely out of wood, or maybe just one with a wooden deck. I'll have to try something like that one day too. That's for Herbert from the distant future to worry about though. I had fun with this, kind of. I didn't really enjoy the amount of time I spent painting black between the planks, but it wasn't a bad experience. I do think it might have been a good idea to somehow build this in two parts, just to make the inside a little bit easier to paint. It doesn't really look all that good in there. I'm counting on it being dark in there so that you just can't tell. Anyway, I think this result is much more interesting than I would have achieved with regular acrylics. And it is always nice to try something you haven't done before. Eventually this model will have a bit more to it, but don't hold your breath. I guess there's not much more else to say really. You surprised I made it all the way through this video without a poop joke or a boner joke? Ha ha, I got nothing. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comments section below. If you've built one of these, or any other cool models, toilets or not, and you want to share, why not drop by our friendly Discord community and show us some pictures? We'd love to see what you've done. And if you've not already done so, why not subscribe here on YouTube for free? Or if you've got the means, and you want to help a Erpaderp do Erpaderp things, as well as see my videos a bit early, consider becoming a patron. You can find links to Patreon and all of my other things like Discord and social media in the description below. And as always, I shall return soon, so until then, be excellent to each other, have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching. Farewell.